Welcome back this week in Airsoft. This is Javier Dark Horse for another installation of Let's Talk Gear. What we have today is we're going to talk about the most simplest, most benign gear, I guess sometimes, and the least considered gear sometimes, I think also, is your camouflage choice and what you pick to wear for your game choices. Right here I've got a good example of pretty much what you're going to see out on the field right now, short of ATACs here, which is camo. This is now becoming very popular. I'll tell you guys about this. I'll tell you, Airsoft is the first one to get the best camouflages and the newest kind, you know, because we're right there at the edge of the new stuff, looking for the best. And while it's I guess it's been proven to be a very effective camouflage, I think that it's a waste of money in comparison to the fact that your gear may not be ATACs. If it is, and you got the extra money to spend on it, good for you. But if your gear is not ATACs, that's going to give you away, you know, and the rest of your uniform is going to help you out. Also, the simple fact that you know, you're a big bulky person walking around in the field, so you know, when you look online, you look at the photos and you see the advertisements for any of these kinds of camo. They do a really good job of showing how effective it is. Well, you know, remember, they got Photoshop, so what's effective in the field and what's effective for real are often two different things. All right. Now, I will talk about, first of all, brand, and I usually don't, you know, really lean to one brand or another, or really point one out too much unless it really sticks out to me. These three right here, these are all true spec TRU uniforms. Why I picked true spec? This is an old AC uniform of mine from the Army, issued model. Is that the true specs are actually some of the best quality, best model uniforms you can get on the market, hands down. Some guys will buy the proper, some guys will buy Chinese knockoffs, and my gripe with those is that I can wash these and they don't fade. Now, they don't fade nearly as bad or nearly as quick at all. A set of proper uniforms, if you don't wash them right real quick, can easily fade or shrink, and they're just, the quality isn't there. You know, I'll admit it, and ATACs is all with proper, so for you guys going with that, your colors could fade quickly if you don't wash them right. I mean, you got to be careful. That's what I just found out. I found that out, you know, with an old pair of BDUs a long time ago, that proper is just horrible for that. Also, the stitching quality, I think, is much better in a true spec model. So I'll definitely recommend, and I'll say that, you know, for this week in Airsoft, highly recommended is the true spec uniforms. They are definitely, the quality is there. The reliability and the long lasting of the camouflage is also there. You know, faded camo is useless in a lot of ways too. It's just like wearing a white t-shirt sometimes, depending on the color. Also, I'll say that the pouches and patch setup are all ideal in mission. Essentially work just fine for these type of uniforms in comparison to other brands and other uses. Alright, what do we pick and what do we use? Well, it's always a matter of terrain, and it's always a matter of the theater that we're operating. Why in Iraq were men using three-color desert when it first started? Because you're in a desert. Until the ACUs came out and it was a universal uniform. Alright, but let's take the ACUs out of the game here, because that was a decision made by the Army to produce one uniform that works for all terrains. And we saw how that works and how that does and doesn't work in sometimes, okay? When choosing your uniform, you think of your terrain. The Marine Corps obviously still has its MARPAD and its desert digital, and it has its woodland digital, two different uniforms. You'll see the Marines, when they train and they're in a woodland environment, will use their woodland, and the desert, use their desert. Alright? And then the theater uniform now is multicam for all UN and all NATO troops. NATO troops in the theater of Afghanistan are using a variant of multicam almost. The U.S. forces, you know, I guess led the way on that one, and you know, see British and others using variants of it. It is the theater uniform that works for there, works best in that terrain, because you have a combination of mountainous desert terrain with vegetation also available. So it's the best mix and match for that uniform. Is there a ideal camouflage that works for any situation? No. There is no such thing as that. That's why ACUs, for a lot of people, are like, this can't work and this can't happen, and this is the wrong idea to have one essential uniform. When multicam came out, the guys that were selling the multicam design were showing you in the situations where it works the best. You put this multicam in a thick green wooded area or in a jungle, it becomes less effective because the environment is much more lush and green and much more actually contoured closer to a bluer shade than it is the dark browns and a tan color. So it's not a universal uniform either. So it's essential for any fighter that's going to find itself in your different terrains and your different areas to have your multiple setups. Now, because here at This Week in Airsoft we play a lot of different ops, there are uniform requirements for each one, depending on what side you play on. So I had to own a pair of almost every kind of camo that I might come across. You know, the standard woodland BDUs, the deserts, multicam, and the ACUs. I really don't play with the ACUs anymore because you don't see too many ops wanting you to use them, so that's fine with me. And I've only ever used my multicam once in an op, and I've only ever used my desert once in an op. You know, because as much as I can, I'll go woodland BDU style. We have to remember that we're in North America. You know, unless you're living down in the Southwest and the Southern California areas where there's a lot of desert, you know, wearing this as your regular uniform is kind of pointless, guys. You know, think about it. You know, just because you guys are seeing the guys in theater wearing it, being like, oh, that's the uniform to wear, is pointless. Same thing with the multicam. It works, it's really effective, yeah, but in a nice lush green, the environment that the U.S. consists of mostly of, it is not as effective, honestly, in my opinion, than a woodland or a marpad woodland color. The digital woodland is suited for that. Your multicam is not the most effective. Let's also remember, let's think about it too. ATAX, multicam, the matching gear that helps it be so effective is much more expensive than the gear that's in either tan or that's either in coyote or tan or in OD green. So you've created a higher expense, you know, because you chose that you had to go with that multicam because it's the latest and the greatest thing that's being used. You know, you got to think of it. You know, think of the economics of it too, in that sense. You guys, I always wear OD green gear, green gear, because the trees in this country and everywhere I play in environments are mostly green or grassy. You know, and even in the fall, you still have a lot of kind of green environment. So it just doesn't make any sense to be going with a desert colored, a tan colored vest. You know, you're not in the desert. You know, that's why they use them in Iraq. They're using tan vests because they're more in the desert. They use them more in Afghanistan because of the mountainous terrain and area. You know, we fight in the jungle. We fight with green equipment or green equipment that matches that environment. So think about that. I mean, it's important to move away from these misconceptions about, you know, what's the best camouflage. The best camouflage is the camouflage that best fits your fighting environment. Most of the U.S., woodland camouflage is actually the best option to use. You know, argue with me all you want, but you know what? We go out and you just put this stuff, your woodland camouflage in backgrounds you're most likely to fight in the U.S., you'll find that it's the ideal, proper choice for you to take. It's the most effective. It makes the most sense for the environment that we're fighting in. Desert, it's a waste of your time and point to have it and use it in the U.S. Like I said, unless you live in Southern California or Death Valley. Okay, you got me there. That's fine. Multicam, it is a good camouflage. It is good for a lot of situations. It works better in some situations than in others, you know. But the price point on the extra that you have to pay for gear, it's a shot in the foot in my case. You know, if it's going to make a pouch $5–10 more, sometimes higher, that's useless. And you're going to have multicam, and then you're going to have a tan vest or a green vest, and well, that multicam isn't as useful anymore. It's basically you're only wearing pants because that's covering everything else. So we got to have the thought process there when we're thinking about our gear, mission essential, and what works for our environment. Now, a lot of you guys can't. Now, these true spec uniforms are a little expensive. Sometimes of them. The desert you can get, I think, desert and woodland, I think you can get around $30, top and the bottom, each one. So that's $60 total for the whole system. And multicam, once again, you're paying like $40, $45. So you're paying at least $10–15 more for just it being multicam alone. And see, there you go. Once again, the budget is being hit. But excuse me. But it is easy, honestly, for you guys to go into a surplus store, and if you want that, you know, operator or sleek look to your gear, you can go into a surplus store, sometimes a clothing bank, and you can get a regular BDU top, like an old school BDU top from before the wars broke out, and things got all fancy. When operators first started, you know, using unconventional uniforms, and especially when Iraq and all that broke out, we had just a 3-color desert. We didn't have these 3-color desert with the pouches and the stuff on the side of it. That wasn't the standard. That wasn't the standard issue for equipment and troops. No, what guys were doing is they were taking. Go ahead and turn it around. They were taking a standard uniform, and this is a woodland one. And what they were doing is this. They were taking the top pouch off right here that you see. All right, this is being cut out, and the stitching was undone. The stitching was being undone, and it was being re-sewn on the sleeve here, up on the shoulder, up on your upper arm. And then the lower pocket of the old uniform was being brought up and turned into the side, or just put straight up. You know, so now what we have now is uniforms pre-made with that concept, like the ACUs, with that pre-made concept with no lower pouch, pocket, and a shoulder pocket pre-made already. This, like I said, is like 30 bucks, 35 bucks. This right here, I can get used in a thrift store for like $6 to $10. And then all I gotta do is take it to a tailor, or take it to clothing sales, or even get mom or dad to do it for me. Undo the stitching, move it to the shoulders, undo the stitching, move it up, cant it in a little bit. Same thing on the other side. Undo the stitching, put it up on your shoulder and your arms, put it up on your upper arm, undo the stitching, move it up to a 45 and in. And now you got that operator and that sleek setup to where you no longer have access to pockets down here, which you didn't use. You now have bigger pockets slanted that you can get to on the top, and you now have the pockets to put in your upper arm and access. After that, it's just a matter of buying a little Velcro, sewing it on the center and on the flap, or just on the center if you want, and you're good to go. You've now just created the SF look and the Special Forces operator look, or the ACU look and appearance, you know, with a standard set of BEUs. So we've got a $30 option buying a top from like True Spec. You know, some more advantages are, obviously, these are all Velcro pockets and zippered, which is nice, but I can't afford that. I can't afford that fancy uniform. It's too expensive. Goodwill, 10 bucks for a top, 10 bucks for a bottom. Do a little sewing, you know, if you want to do it professionally done, I'm sure it'll cost you maybe another 10 bucks, depending on where you're at. And then add the Velcro, and boom, you got yourself a full uniform for $40 compared to $60 for a woodland or a desert, or $70, $80 for a multicam uniform, you know, that was really expensive for the same pouch setup, and you didn't have to, you know, go out and spend a lot of money. You know, there's a way to get that what you want and be mission essential. You know, that this is what operators and the group guys and the units were doing before companies were making purpose-built uniforms like this for themselves. And it's something you could easily do and still be very combat effective and fit the role that you want it to fit. So don't think that, you know, you can't still do that and not be just right there at that top level of gameplay also. Alright guys, so as far as picking a uniform, you know, take into consideration your terrain, where you live, and the kind of combat that you do. I'm going to tell you that for most parts of this country right now, woodland, BDUs, do the job, get it done right. Multicam's a nice option to add, but it's expensive. Desert, unless you live in Death Valley or Southern California, I don't see a need for it. And ACU, well, it's ACU. Alright guys, so this is Javier, Dark Horse with This Week in Airsoft, and just make wise decisions, and I hope this helped you guys out. Alright, talk to you guys soon.